we've talked about steeples being on churches. It doesn't matter which denomination you are. If it's part of the system, it's corrupt, period. I don't care. And so the steeple being a phallic symbol to Baal, when you walk under that church steeple, what covering are you walking under? We got to start asking ourselves these tough questions. When you look at the Notre Dame fire, what's going on with that? Look at the architecture. What's on that building? You've got gargoyles. You've got Gothic stuff. Folks, this is not of Christ, period. I don't care how they disguise it. They can say it all they want. And I know I'm going to get attacked for that. I don't care, because the bottom line is the truth. You've got to hear the truth, because that truth's only going to set you free. So, but the point is that we have a lot of churches burning right now. We can kind of move over into this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We got a lot of churches burning worldwide, and there's people out there, the doom and gloomers, the doom and gloom pastors, oh my gosh, they're attacking Christians. Yes, it's both. And I want people to understand this. It's a 50-50 right now. Is that, yes, we have good Christians being slaughtered out there right now. I'm not going to deny that one bit, because we do, Chris. And so this is a true fight for good and evil. But the point is that you've also got another 50%, these systems, these churches and the systems like Notre Dame are burning for a reason. Now you have to ask yourself, is it from the enemy, or is this part of the judgment? Because we have to start asking ourselves, when you start seeing these church fires, you need to ask yourself, who's it from? Because it could go either way. And so I want to be very careful how I say this, is because you have to ask yourself, who is it from? Is it from good, or is it from the light side? I mean, again, I know God doesn't kill, steal, and destroy something, but there is a judgment side of God.
Yes,
and
it is.
We have said this many times on this program, that the church system is under judgment. Now, ask yourself, why did that church catch fire? What's going on in that church is what you need to ask yourself, and what's going on under the church, Chris. It's a known fact that there are catacombs under that church. There are tunnels under that church. We've talked about that many times on your program here, where you're going to see churches exposed, ministries, seminaries that have tunnels under them, that have been involved in sex trafficking, human sacrifice. I mean, there are satanic rituals going on in these churches and ministries. They're trafficking these kids and these people under these tunnels. And so we got to ask ourselves these tough questions. So whenever you see a fire somewhere, I'm not going to paint them all the same, but you need to start asking yourself these tough questions. Okay, was it from the enemy, or is this from the judgment? Because unfortunately, there's been stuff going on in these places that's being exposed. And if something gets exposed out of one of these fires, you're going to see it firsthand, because God's exposing it all right now.
Right. And Mark, I would just add to that, and we're not naming names, but I'm going to just say another thing that you need to look at is who's there, what world leaders are there in these cities when these things take place. I'll give you an example. A former official at the Christchurch shootings in New Zealand that happened about a month ago, there was a well-known high-up member in Hillary Clinton's campaign that was there 2 days before that Muslim attack took place. And it turned out to be a complete farce. It was a setup to make the narrative that Christians are attacking Muslims. And this guy that was convicted was nobody. He was a bigot. He didn't like Christians no more than he liked Muslims. He could care less. He was just a psychopath. But what happened? A month later, ISIS blows up a bunch of churches in Sri Lanka. And then in their statement even, they say, this is in retaliation for Christchurch. This is in retaliation for that. And again, who was there in Sri Lanka just a few days prior to that? I'm sure if we did some deep research, we'd probably find some interesting names was hanging out in Southeast Asia. This thing at Notre Dame, same thing. Do your research. We're not going to name names.
Who's hanging out drinking wine on the river, watching it burn.
Exactly.
And at the same time that was burning, you had a mosque in Jerusalem that was burning.
Same time.
Yep.
Exactly. And Mark, I do believe that it's prophetic. I believe it's prophetic, and I do believe it's a pattern. And look, I got a friend named Cody Snodgrass, and first interview we ever did, Cody, powerful stuff. He was offered $1 million to blow up the F.R. Murrah building in Oklahoma City. Didn't take the money, and McVeigh did it a few months later, and then, the rest is history. But one of the things Cody talked about to me, and he said it about Waco, and he said it about Oklahoma, these elites and these globalists, these Luciferians, they have no problem blowing stuff up to hide their evil, wicked deeds. And mark my word, it's in the church as well. They don't care what if it's a religious facility or a spiritual facility.
Right.
And Mark, the only thing about the Notre Dame thing was interesting. No loss of life was involved. And that lets me know that it was, again, that why do something like that if it was arson? And because these elites like the loss of life. But again, it seems to me they were trying to get something hid in that church destroyed. They didn't care about the loss of life there. That was not a terrorist attack. That there may well have been people that wanted to see some stuff hid.
Right. You know, and I'm going to point out a couple of things. There was a church, I want to say, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. It was up there near Massachusetts somewhere where they had those 30 fires that took down, gas fires, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You had a huge church. I have it on my Twitter feed. I could go back and look for it. But there was a 500-year-old church, and this thing was burning to beat the band. It was through the roof, fire was, and it showed the steeple burning. And in the picture, in the video, you could see the reflection in the clouds of that steeple burning. And that was actually, I believe, in the spirit, because that was Baal burning right there. And so the only thing left, Chris, out of that church was a picture of Jesus that was unscathed. Okay? That was one. Notre Dame, they had a picture of the thing, and it was of the pulpit, I believe, and there was a cross hanging on there that was unscathed.
Unscathed.
Is this a coincidence here, guys? No, it's not. Because when right now the church system is being burned to the ground, and the only thing left will be Jesus and the cross. Those are two prophetic things right there. That's all that's going to be left of this, because you said it many times, Chris, and I'll quote you again if you don't mind. We came in home groups, we're going out in home groups. It is not biblical for these systems to be in charge of the body of Christ or the army of God. It's just not, period. And God's trying to get us away from it. He's been warning and warning and warning to come out of it. And now the judgment is beginning to set in.
It is setting in, Mark. Absolutely. And look, you mentioned something about the systems over people. Look, God brought Israel out of Egypt because God looked down on a nation that was enslaved to Egypt for 430 years. And God did not want his people in slavery. Now, he waited a long time. But the time came, because we spoke about it yesterday on our show, on our Sunday morning church service, that in the fullness of time, God finally decided to bring an end to that slavery. I see a parallel in that event and what you just talked about. Because, Mark, these 501c systems, they are enslaving people. They are controlling people. I mean, I have heard absolute horror stories of people that are giving up their paychecks. They're giving up their sovereignty in their homes. They're being told what to do and what not to do. And I'm just going to go ahead and go on record tonight. If there's a pastor that's telling you how to spend your money, you need to get out of that church. If there's a pastor telling you how to run your home, father, mother, brother, sister, whatever, that's not his job to be your babysitter, how you run your home. You run your home the way God tells you to run your home. And these pastors, Mark, and these groups, these groups within these churches, they've become almost like, I don't even know what the word is, but they become like a taskmaster. And if you don't bow down to that system,
that's right,
you're either out or they punish you. Just like a slave would be punished in Egypt for not obeying the Egyptians. These 501c3 systems punish you if you don't adhere to their tenet. And it's the same thing. And God's going to judge. Just like he judged Egypt, he's going to judge this.
Well, again, it's you have a deep state in the political realm, you have a deep state in the church realm. The 501c3 is part of that, guys. It's all linked. The Bible says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Well, the problem is you're yoked with pro-choice, Planned Parenthood. They're all 501c3s. You're yoked in the spirit. This is why we haven't been able to make headway, you know what I mean, in the court system through the pro-life stuff, because you're a 501c3. You can't cast out Satan with Satan, Jesus said. It's all part of the Baal system. Chris, did you know we just had headlines? Guess who just joined in the ranks of the 501c3s? The Satanic Church was just granted tax-exempt status by the IRS.
Exactly.
So congratulations, guys. Guess what? You're now yoked with the Satanic Church.
That's right. I sent you that. Yeah, I saw that. I had to shake my head a little bit, and I was like, Lord, are you kidding me?
This is not hard to understand, and it's like God's trying to tell people, look, this is a rescue mission. You know, and here's the other thing we've produced, Chris. These shepherds that have been put over their flock to feed these guys. I watched the video, and I can't remember the guy's name now. But he was talking about how they're having to use carnality to bring people in. That's the system.
That's true.
That's the system.
That's right, Mark.
The light shows, the concerts, all this stuff, all these programs. Oh, you don't understand, Brother Mark. We're doing so much good with all this money. No, you don't understand because of the system you're in right now, the demonic system you're in. So they have to use carnality to bring the masses into these mega churches and all these kind of things, these programs. But you have a small core group of people, Chris, in each one of these churches that are looking for truth.
Amen, Mark.
They're looking for the pure Christ in all of this. And these shepherds are literally pushing these people away, Chris, because they got to keep feeding carnality. Because how do you keep the carnal ones there? You got to keep feeding the carnality. You got to think of bigger and better ways to keep them there. It's not about Christ. It's about trying to keep them there, keep the money flowing, keep the doors open, keep the cameras rolling, whatever the case may be. But yet they're starving that core group of true people who are looking for the true, pure gospel. And they can't get it, and they don't know how. That's the sad part. And don't think for 1 second that these guys are not going to be held accountable, brother.
No.